Hello, um, welcome back to ACCO30193, Strategic Tax Management. This is another lecture video where we will discuss employee compensation. But before I proceed, kung actually concerned ko rin to. I don't know what happened to the previous lecture video, yung discussion on product development. Ang haba-haba pa naman niya, pero nagkaroon ng technical issue on technical problem on the recording of the audio. So I tried naman, to be fair, I tried naman to find a remedy. Paano ko siya papalakasin? But wala akong makitang remedyo. I even considered na i-record ko yung ano ko, mag-voice over ako dun sa sarili ko. Kaya na medyo nahirapan ako kasi I'm iba eh, spontaneous naman yung pagsalita ko. Anyway, that's that. So, kung meron sa inyo, may paraan para ma, ma, ma-improve yung audio ng previous lecture video, just tell me kung paano gagawin. I'm not really that techy, so let's proceed with the discussion on employee compensation. Siyempre, simulan ng lahat, i-define natin kung ano ang compensation. So compensation is a systematic approach to providing monetary value to employees in exchange for work performed. Compensation may achieve several purposes, assisting in recruitment, job performance, and job satisfaction. So, pag sinabing compensation, in its generic sense, ito yung kabayaran kapag ang isang tao ay nag-render ng serbisyo. Kino-compensate mo siya for the services rendered. Yan, tawag ng compensation. Remuneration, kumbaga. But not all forms, we will learn later on, that not all forms of rendering of services ay considered as employee compensation. Kaya dito sa pagkaka-define ko dito, tawag dito, medyo generic pa siya, no? Medyo generic pa siya. Although, ano na naman siya, applicable na rin naman siya dun sa specific sense ng compensation para sa mga empleyado. Okay. So, compensation may be used to recruit and retain qualified employees, increase or maintain morale and satisfaction, reward and encourage peak performance, achieve internal and external equity, reduce turnover and encourage company loyalty, and modify through negotiations practices of union. So, pwede mong gamitin ang compensation bilang tools, no? Bilang tool dito sa mga bagay na ito. So, for example, you want to recruit a certain talent, no? Meron kang kilala na professional, for example, accountant in a auditing firm, in an auditing firm, and you want to recruit him or her. So isa sa mga maaari mong gamitin bilang tool para ma-recruit mo siya, no, para ma-akit mo siya sa iyong kumpanya, ay gamitin mo ang compensation bilang leverage. No? Offeran mo siya. Sabi mo, dadoblehin ko yung sweldo mo dyan or triplihin ko yung sweldo mo dyan, etc. etc. Or bibigyan kita ng gantong benefits, wala yan dyan. Meron akong car benefit or housing benefit which you did not enjoy with your current employer. So, pwede mo siyang gamitin as leverage. Or, you may use also compensation to increase or maintain morale or satisfaction. So, isa sa mga nakakapag, it's not the only factor, but isa sa mga factors na nakapag-satisfy ng mga empleyado ay compensation. Siyempre, they want to be rewarded, kumbaga, doon sa service na kanilang ginagawa. Gusto ng mga empleyado, kasi meron tayong inaral before sa HBO, di ba? I don't know kung nakapag-take na kayo nun. Yung human behavior in organizations. Maraming principles dyan. The best na naalala ko is yung Maslow's hierarchy of need. Ginagamit din siya sa HBO. Siyempre, tao yan eh. Tao yung nagtatrabaho for you. At dahil tao siya, meron siyang mga needs. May hierarchy yung needs na yun. At sa pinakababa ng needs na yan, ay yung kanyang physiological needs, which includes yung kanyang pagkain. Yan. Siyempre, yung mga ikamamatay niya pag nawala. Yan, pagkain. Pero paano siya makakabili ng pagkain? Paano siya magkakaroon ng pagkain? Total na empleyado mo siya. You should look after that need. Paano siya makakakain sa araw-araw? Paano niya mapapakain yung pamilya niya? So, with that in mind, no, you can calibrate yung compensation niya. No? Baka naman yung compensation mo ay parang sakto lang. Wala na siyang savings. Lahat napupunta dun sa kanyang napupunta lang sa pambili ng pagkain. Yung basic necessity lang. Wala siyang ipon, hindi siya nakakapag-ipon, hindi siya nakakapag splurge, kumbaga, no? Yung mga hobbies niya, hindi niya na naman na magkakagastusan. Para ma-boost mo yung moral niya, no? Para ma-boost mo yung moral ng empleyado mo na yun, you can use compensation as a tool. Pangatlo, no, reward and encourage peak performance. So, pwede kang mag-offer ng salary adjustment, salary increase. Sabi mo sa mga empleyado mo, for those who will be able to exceed expectation. Hindi lang yung na-meet mo expectation. Pero pag na-exceed mo expectation, then you are entitled to a salary adjustment or salary increase. Siyempre, you want to motivate them to do that. And again, maraming factors para ma-motivate mo sila. At isa sa mga factors na maaari mong gamitin ay compensation. Achieve internal and external equity. No? Lagi natin binabanggit to, the ultimate goal of strategic tax management is to increase the value or increase the equity, kumbaga. Kung maaari mong gamitin ang compensation para mapataas mo yung value ng company. And how do you do that? Itong mga susunod nating slide, ito actually yung buong discussion natin on employee compensation will tackle yung how we will be able to achieve internal and external equity. Number 5, reduce turnover. Ibig sabihin na reduce turnover, yung mga mabilis ang mag-resign, no? Kaka-hire mo pa lang, after 6 months, resign sila. After 1 year, nag-resign. Napapansin mo, ganun yung trend. For the past 5 employees na hire natin, walang tumatagal ng 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Walang parang walang sense of loyalty, kumbaga. Hindi ba naman sila masisisi pag gusto nila mag-resign, wala naman under our labor code, you cannot prohibit your employee from resigning, can prevent them from resigning. There's nothing you can do. Kung ayaw nila, ayaw nila. Pero you can use compensation as a tool para mabawasan yan. Kasi baka lang naman. Kaya hindi sila naiengganyo na mag-stay sa company nyo dahil nabababaan sila sa sweldo or nakokontian sila sa benefits. Kapag ganyan, you can use compensation. Taasan mo yung sweldo or dagdagan mo yung benefits nila. Baka lang, yung factor na yun ang makapag-engganyo sa kanila to stay with the company. And then number 6, modify through negotiation practices of union. Si number 6, applicable siya for those organizations which are unionized or organized, kumbaga. Ibig sabihin, merong union doon sa company. Yung mga empleyado, they have exercised their right to self-organization, and they have they have created or put up a labor organization or union. So you can use compensation. Siyempre, isa sa mga purpose ng union na yan is to negotiate yung kanilang compensation. Actually, sa portion ng ating savant na negotiation, diyan papasok yan. Yung modify practices of union. So may mga industry practice kasi ng mga union. Again, meron diyang economic, merong non-economic. Isa sa mga pwede mong gawin bilang employer ay makipag-negotiate ka sila doon sa economic side. Actually, you can also negotiate for the non-economic, pero syempre, mas kontrolado mo on how to negotiate yung economic aspect, no, with the union. Yan. Gamitin mo yung mga knowledge, yung mga principles on compensation para dyan. Okay? So you have this practice, no? We call compensation management. So compensation management is a process by which employees are scouted, engaged, and retained. Employees, dapat wala itong salitang employees na yan, and retained, magic, yan. And retained through competitive compensation plans that align with the company budget, corresponding job market, and government regulation. So, dito papasok yung strategy natin sa compensation management. So, gagamitin mo yung yung mga principles ng compensation para makapaghanap ka, you scout employees, or you invite employees, or you attract employees, and then you engage their services, and then yun nga yung pinag-usapan natin kanina, you should be able to retain yung mga empleyado na yan through competitive compensation plans. Pero, dapat yung compensation plans na yan should be aligned with the company budget. Should be aligned with the short-term and long-term strategy of the company. Again, we have learned dun sa Savant natin na hindi yung strategy ang mag-a-adjust. Dapat kung ano yung strategy should be fixed, more or less fixed siya. So kung meron kang, you come up with a compensation management plan, that plan should be the one to be aligned doon sa short-term and long-term strategy ng company. You also take into consideration yung job market, yung availability. Baka naman napaka-idealistic na gusto mong mangyari. Meron ka mga requirements na dapat may CPA siya, lawyer siya, engineer siya. Kung ano naman nire-require mo, may masteral siya. Na dapat nakuha niya from a US university. Ang daming requirement. Wala ka naman makikitang ganyan. Kahit offeran mo ng million. Wala makikita. Baka hindi available sa job market. And government regulation. Siyempre marami tayong ang usapang compensation ay hindi nanatili sa pagitan ng employer at ng employee. Palaging involved yung government dito. Kasi pinoprotektahan ng state, ng estado, yung empleyado. Kasi parang sinasabi niya na between the employer and the employee is at a disadvantage. Diba? Kasi yung employer, parang pag tinanggal niya yung employee, papalitan lang ng employer yan. Parang ganun sinasabi niya. Kasi capital to si employer. Ikaw, serbisyo ka na employee. So, medyo inclined yung ating estado na protektahan yung empleyado. At para hindi maabuso yung mga empleyado, may mga batas tayo dyan, labor code, primarily the labor code, which seeks to protect yung mga empleyado. So, kung meron kang compensation plan, dapat yung compensation plan mo na yan ay akma doon sa mga nakasaad sa ating labor code. So, hindi ka pwede maglagay ng compensation plan na tumataliwas doon sa kahingian ng mga minimum requirements ng labor code. Okay? So a good compensation management should attract and recruit talent. So para malaman mo kung successful ba, wagi ba ang iyong compensation management, you should be able to attract and recruit talent. No? Ibig sabihin na i-engganyo yung mga tao, yung mga aplikante na mag-apply. You should be able to motivate employees. Ibig sabihin, masipag sila magtrabaho. Yan, na-achieve nila yung mga goals nila, na-submit nila yung kanilang deadlines on time. Yan, kasi motivated sila. Should be able to maintain morale. Yan, nakikita mo na nag-enjoy sila sa trabaho nila. Kasi they know they are well compensated for the work that they are doing. Number 4, it should be able to adhere to government regulations. So pag sinabi ng government code natin, government code, ng labor code natin, kailangan magbayad ng overtime or ng holiday pay, then you should be able to pay those. Hindi mo dyan pwedeng tanggalin sa iyong compensation management. And it should reflect the current job market. Again, dapat ay hindi lang idealistic yung gusto mo. Hindi ka naghahanap ng magsiset ka ng napakataas na mga standards na kahit tapatan mo pa yan ng mataas na compensation. If it is not in the current job market, walang mangyayari dyan. Sayang lang yung panahon na ginugugol mo sa compensation management if ang dulo niyang compensation management mo ay hindi achievable. Should be achievable. Okay? So what are the steps in compensation management? First, ito yung mahaba kong diniscuss doon sa sa product management. Diniscuss ko yung steps, tapos hindi ka naman marinig yung sarili ko. By the way, you can try using headset or earphone. Pag nag-headset kayo or earphone, medyo may hint na maririnig mo ako. Pero pag nag-loudspeaker ka, wala. Kahit ako di ko marinig by loudspeaker. Anyway, first step is to develop and apply a compensation philosophy. Pag sabing compensation philosophy, basahin na lang muna natin, a compensation philosophy formally documents the company reasoning behind employee salaries, bonuses, and benefits. Consistently adhering to the compensation philosophy demonstrates company integrity and transparency to employees and job candidates. So for example, you can adapt as compensation philosophy yung position. Yan, so pag rank and file position ka, ganito yung level ng compensation. Pag na-promote ka to supervisor, ganito yung level ng compensation. Pag na-promote ka pa to manager level, ganito yung compensation. Pag na-promote ka to junior officer, ganito. Senior officer, ganyan. That's a philosophy, syempre. Kasi ang philosophy behind that is, habang tumataas ka doon sa ladder, sa corporate ladder, mas lumalaki yung responsibility mo. Mas tumataas yung expectation sa'yo ng company. And with that, dapat ma-compensate ka for the experience, for the trust, for the time that you spent. Yan. Yun yung philosophy behind. So pag yung philosophy na yan, it should be fixed. Para siyang strategic goals. Dapat fixed yan. So that every time na merong bagong empleyado or lumang empleyado, they should adhere to that philosophy. The company should adhere to that philosophy. Dapat hindi may exempt na merong pumasok na empleyado, ang level niya ay, let's say, junior manager, pero binibigyan mo siya ng salary for a senior officer. You are not adhering to the compensation philosophy. Magulo yan. Marami magrereklamo, marami magre-raise ng issue. Ba't siya ganun? Bagong hire yan. Although naintindihan ko siya ay junior manager, pero bakit ganun? Senior officer yung corporate officer yung binigay natin sa kanyang sweldo. And it lacks integrity and transparency on the part of the employer. Magiging iba yung tingin nila, ay ganito pala tong company na to. Meron silang bias, kumbaga. Actually, may mga, hindi ko nalang papangalanan, no? Pero may mga ganyang company na they discriminate. Hindi sila sumusunod sa compensation policy nila. Na supposedly, kung ikaw ay bagong hire, ganito yung compensation package mo, let's say 25. Kunyari lang, 25,000. Pero may mga pinipili sila ng mga newly hired na kapag empleyado ng certain university, biglang nagiging 30, for example, or 35. Na just because siya ay galing sa igantong eskwelahan, parehas naman kami ng pinasa na board examination, for example. Parehas naman kami ng degree na pinanghawakan. Parehas naman kami na wala pang newly graduate at wala pang experience. Parehas kami ng situation. Pero bakit ganun? Mas mataas yung kanyang sweldo. Nawawala ng integrity yung company kapag ganyan yung practice nila. You should come up with a compensation philosophy and you stick to that philosophy. If there is a need to change the philosophy, then so be it. You have to change it. Pero once you adapt that philosophy, even if you change it thereafter, should implement it. Tawag dito. You should be able to implement it without distinction and without discrimination. Next, once you have that philosophy, you have to gather employee feedback. Employees can provide the most accurate feedback regarding compensation plans. So each human resources leaders can conduct anonymous surveys allowing employees to relay their honest opinions and suggestions. So before conducting the survey, the HR leaders can explain why they will be running a survey because employee opinions and experience are invaluable and their job satisfaction matters. Ano mangyayari dito? So you have this philosophy. Yung philosophy na yan will be at the point of view ng employer, ng company. Yun yung nakikita niya. Paano naman yung other side? Kasi sa compensation management, may dalawang side ng storya dito palagi. Yung employer na gumagastos at yung employee na tumatanggap ng kita. Both sides should be heard. And kung compensation ang pinag-uusapan, sabi ng mga best practices natin, syempre mas valuable yung input ng mga empleyado. Kasi para sa kanila naman talaga to eh. So, you should hear from them. Sabi dito, you can conduct survey, pero don't say that the survey will pertain to their compensation. Don't directly say that. No? Kasi pag sinabi mo na, do you want an increase? Syempre, do you want na ganito yung klase ng philosophy natin sa company? If they think that it will be beneficial to them, yes nila yan. So don't say directly that the survey will pertain to their compensation. Para hindi bias yung thinking nila. Parang ayan, tinawag na anonymous survey siya. Bukod doon, dapat hindi rin nila alam. Hindi rin dapat na-disclose doon sa employer na yung sumagot ng survey itong specific na tao na to. Kasi they should have that liberty and confidence to answer yung survey without fear na mababalikan sila later on. Diba? Kasi pag alam nila, ay malalaman ni boss na ako yung sumagot ng ganito. Malalaman niya na naliliitan ako sa sweldo. Baka tanggalin niya ako. It should be anonymous and should be indirect. Okay? Follow through with employee feedback. Kumuha ka ng employee feedback, tignan mo, i-assess mo, i-consider mo. Now, HR leaders and compensation management can implement changes based on employee feedback. While there are numerous aspects to consider when building compensation plans, adjusting compensation plans to address employees' financial and lifestyle needs can lead to greater retention and engagement. Since kinonsider mo nga, check mo kung reflective ba yung employee feedback na kinonsider mo. Diba, you came up with a compensation plan or in-adjust mo yung existing compensation plan based on the philosophy and the feedback from the employees. Tignan mo kung effective ba. Nabubus ba yung moral? Nag-stay ba sila dito? Yung mga purposes mo, nami-meet ba yung purposes mo? Yan. Check mo. No? You follow through with the employee feedback. And then you also have to explain the compensation plan to the employees. Now, perhaps employees receive compensation packages, yet they aren't aware of how to access their benefits. So HR leaders can review compensation plans with managers, who in turn can clarify the plans to their team members. This helps employees appreciate and benefit from every aspect of the compensation package. For example, nakikita nila, ay may ganito pala tayong leave. May sick leave pala tayo, ay may vacation leave pala tayo, ay maternity leave. Nabasa lang nila. Pero hindi mo in-explain. So, dapat you should be able to explain to them, ganito mag-file ng leave. Usually, nagkakantak ng orientation. For new hires, ganyan. Kanta ka ng orientation, you inform the new hires kung ano ba yung mga benefits na meron yung company, and then, you also inform them on how to avail those benefits. So, for example, nagkasakit ka, merong sick leave, or this what you should do kapag gusto mo mag-avail ng sick leave. Send an email or send a text message, ganyan. If lalagpas siya ng 5 days, should be able to secure a medical certificate, etc., etc. So yun yung pag-explain ng compensation plan to the employees. Kasi hindi sapat na nag-come up ka lang without explaining them to them. Dapat naintindihan nila ng husto kung ano ba yung gusto mong iparating dun sa yung compensation plan at paano nila i-avail yung compensation plan na yan. And then offer compensation to improve quality of life. So in addition to the basic salary, compensation can include life-enhancing benefits such as pleasant work setting, a workplace wellness program, extra vacation days, and daily fresh catering. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo, hindi limited sa pera ang compensation. Siyempre, we cannot deny the fact that it is siguro the first, no? Kung iayusin mo yung order of priority. Ito yung unang nakalista, di ba? Yung napaka ah, direct kasi niyan eh. 'Di ba? You are compensating yung serbisyo. You are putting a value. Sinasabi mo doon sa empleyado, alam mo yung ginagawa niya, valuable yan sa company. So if you see it's valuable to the company, you pay for it. Na in the same way na may pumunta sa inyo, may naglinis ng bahay niyo, sasabihin mo, thank you. Hindi, di ba? Kung pwede mo siya i-compensate mo siya. Di ba? Siyempre, valuable din yung pag-thank you. May empleyado ka, nag-render ng service, nagalingan ka. You say thank you. Thank you. But don't stop at thank you. Kasi hindi naman niya makakain yung thank you. Hindi rin niya mauuwi sa bahay yung thank you. Hindi niya pwedeng isubo sa mga anak niya yung thank you. Hindi niya pwedeng ipapaaral yung thank you. Ipapaaral ng mga bata yung thank you. So ganun. Bukod sa more than the economic aspect of compensation, pwede mo dagdagan yung you provide vacation, yan, libre vacation. Birthday leave, yan. Isa sa mga valuable, isang araw lang yun. Pero na-appreciate ng yan, ng empleyado yan. Diba? Total birthday mo, sige, papabayaan kita, wag ka nang pumasok. Diba? Spend it with your family. You eat out, ganyan. You are allowed to take a big birthday leave. Siyempre, once lang, birthday. Marami kang birthday. Birthday leave, yan. Diba, nag-boost ng moral yun. Ay, papabayaan ako ng employer ko na mag-absent, mag-leave sa araw mismo ng birthday ko. I can spend it with my parents, or my children, or my spouse, my family, ganyan. Kain namin sa labas. I don't have to think about work for that day kasi naka-birthday leave ako. Napakaganda nun. No? Isang araw lang yan, pero syempre, pasasalamatan ka ng empleyado kapag ginawa mo yan. Pleasant work setting, yan, maganda yan. No? Provide sila malambot na upuan, di ba? Free coffee, yan. Di ba the small things na ma-appreciate ng mga empleyado. Di ba, meron kang patugtog na pang-office, yan, narinig nila overhead music, yan, maliwanag yung opisina, na well-lighted, well-ventilated, komportable, na may aircon na naka-install. Yan, or during the time of the pandemic, no? Pinaprovidean mo sila ng alcohol, the little things, face mask, yan. Or nag-provide ka ng transportation kasi nga, you care about them. Ayaw mo sila mag-public transport. Nag-provide ka ng shuttle service. Mga ganang bagay. Yung mga little things will improve the quality of life of your employees and they will be thankful for that. Okay? Let us talk about executive compensation. Sabi executive, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito nasa based on the level. So meron tayong medyo mataas na level, executive, mga managers. And then, yung sa operational side, mga rank and file employees. So executive compensation should be closely aligned with long-term interests of the shareholders and with corporate goals and strategies. It should include significant performance-based criteria related to the long-term shareholder value and should reflect upside potential and downside risk. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Kapag ang pinag-uusapan na natin ay yung compensation ng president, ng CEO, syempre you are looking at the long-term, no? Long-term effect ng kanyang compensation. Sininok pa ako. Okay, so nawala na yung sinok ko. Ba tayo tuminto? So yung compensation ng mga nasa executive level, mga corporate officers, since they are, ito yung mga position that looking after the long-term goals of the company. So dapat commensurate siya. Parang since nakaatang sa kanila no? Nakaatang sa mga executive employees, nasa mga president, CEO, CFO, nakaatang sa kanila yung hindi lang yung magiging operations ng company kinabukasan. Although, concerned din sila doon, pero they are more concerned doon sa long-term goals ng company. So, syempre dapat, technically, they are holding the life of the company. Again, lahat may roles na ginagampanan, pero yung concern ng mga nasa executive level, uh, yan, futuristic, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, yan yung mga concern nila. Hindi ibig sabihin na wala silang concern sa nangyayari sa ngayon, araw. Concern pa rin sila dyan kasi kung ano naman nangyayari ngayon will have an effect 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Pero yun nga, as executive employees, they are more concerned on the long-term interest of the company. Hence, yung compensation nila should be commensurate to that. So the compensation of the chief executive officer and other top executives should be determined entirely by independent directors, either as compensation committee or together with other independent directors based on the committee's recommendation. So sa setup ng mga companies, di ba meron kang board of directors, and then among the board of directors, pwede kang maggawa ng mga committee. Di ba meron kang finance committee, meron kang marketing committee, meron kang audit committee, pwede ka din mag-come up ng compensation committee. So para para maiwasan yung conflict of interest, kumbaga, yung magde-determine ng compensation ng chief executive officer mo at saka ng top executives mo should be the members of that compensation committee, which should include the independent directors. Kasi mga independent directors, they really don't care kung, not really, they really don't care, but it is not their priority kung magkano ba yung sinusweldo ng mga empleyado. Kasi independent na sila independent director. So, you can expect na objective yung determination nila ng magiging compensation for the CEO and the other top executives. Okay, the compensation committee should understand all aspects of executive compensation and should review the maximum payout and all benefits under executive compensation arrangement. Siyempre, dapat may limitations on how the compensation committee will come up with the compensation plan. Diba? Baka naman maglagay sila dyan ng bilib na bilib sila dun sa CEO to the point na ang taas-taas ng sweldo, hindi naman kaya ng company. So they should be able, kasi the problem with independent directors kasi is that they are independent of the company. Technically, they are outsiders. Although they still have access syempre to the information regarding the company bilang independent director na sila. They should be provided with those information. So they should be informed first before they can come up with a good and reasonable compensation plan for the executive officers. The compensation committee should require executives to build and maintain significant continuing equity investment in the corporation. And how do they achieve this one? Paano mo not really mapapuwersa, pero paano ma-encourage yung mga executive employees mo to invest in the company itself by what we call share-based payments. No? Diba meron maaari na a part of your benefits ay i-issuehan mo ng shares yung mga empleyado. Usually, mga top executives na yun. I-issuehan mo sila ng shares ng company. And ba't sila interesado to? Bakit? Ba't siya magiging stockholder ng company na pinagtatrabahuhan niya? Diba? Actually, that would motivate that executive employee. Imagine kung alam niya na yung magiging tawag dito, value ng shares niya ay tataas kung mag-contribute siya dun sa value ng company. Diba? If in the future, eventually naiisip din naman yan, ibebenta ko rin naman itong mga shares na ito. More than the dividends na nag-receive ko every year. Darating yung panahon na maibebenta ko siya. And I want na kapag dumating yung panahon na yun, mabenta ko siya ng mataas na presyo. And how do I contribute doon sa pagtaas ng presyo ng shares of stocks na in-issue sa akin. I should work diligently. I should contribute to the growth of the company. I should add value to the company. Magandang ano yung motivation niya na issuehan mo sila ng shares ng company. The compensation committee should oversee its corporation's executive compensation program to see that they are in compliance with applicable laws, regulations, and aligned with best practices. So whatever it is na maging decision ng compensation committee, hindi pwedeng taliwas yan sa sinasaad ng batas natin, particularly the labor code. Yeah. So for example, executive committee or executive officer ka, you will be paid this amount, 2 million per year, but you have to work for 48 for 24 hours. Hindi pwede. Nagre-require ng rest day yung labor code. And kahit hindi i-require ng labor code yun, napaka hindi makatao na i-require mo siya to work for 24/7. Kahit na offer mo pa siya ng 2 million per year, 'di ba? Hindi makatao yung gusto mong ipagawa sa kanya. Should comply, no? The compensation committee should comply with the requirements of the law. Okay, so that's it for compensation. Now, let's go to non-executive compensation. So first, for non-executive naman, make salary decisions based upon appropriate qualifications, contributions, performance, and equity, and budget consideration. So dito, dahil usually, yung mga non-executive employees mo, mga rank and file employees mo, yung mga bagong, most of them would be new hires. Diba? New hires. So yung compensation package mo for them should be appropriate dun sa qualifications. Diba? So, okay yun. Actually, para sa akin, reasonable yun. I don't see na itong bagong hire ay parehas ng sweldo doon sa nag-work na for 5 years or 7 years sa company. No? Nangyayari yan. I'm telling you, nangyayari yung ganyang situation. Pero kung ako lang naman yung employer, I will take that into consideration. Pero hindi naman, it's not a rule din naman na dahil matagal na yung empleyado dun sa company, mataas na dapat yung sweldo niya. Hindi naman ganun. What if never naman siya nakakontribute sa growth ng company? Kahit 10 years ka dyan or 11, 20 years ka dyan, if you never contributed to the growth of the company, why would I consider giving you a higher salary? Siyempre, based case-to-case situation. Pero may working principle behind it. Mas mataas na qualification, mas mataas dapat yung salary. Diba? Again, we don't want to discriminate and we don't want to appear na hahamak ka ng tao. Pero syempre, with the requirements of the company, iba yung magiging compensation ng position na nagre-require ng graduate ng elementary, basic education, or nagre-require ng secondary education, or college graduate, or nagre-require na dapat law graduate ka, or nagre-require na dapat may master's degree ka. May mga ganun kasing position eh. O ito, pwede dito yung graduate ng elementary. O, dapat ito graduate ng law. Although parehas silang bagong hire sa company. Siyempre may appropriate qualification. Diba? And dapat corresponding yung salary doon sa qualifications na yan. And then you have, syempre, budget consideration. Dapat, paulit-ulit ko naman binabanggit, if hindi siya achievable, don't even bother. Pangalawa, the compensation should encourage and reward excellent performance with merit increase whenever possible. Diba? Sa introduction pa lang, sinabi na natin, sa executive, gumagana rin naman ito eh. Siyempre, you should still encourage them to work hard. Pero expected na kasi. Diba? Kung you won't be able to reach that position, hindi ka naman makarating ng pagiging president and CEO kung tatabad-tamad ka. Hindi naman mangyayari yun unless may corruption involved, kaya mo nakuha yan dahil because of corrupt practices. Syempre, we won't be talking about those. We will be talking about the positive aspect of doing business. We want to presume ng isang individual ay nararating niya yung mga position like Chief Financial Officer or Chief Executive Officer or Chief Operating Officer because of their talents, because of their skills, and because of their sacrifice, because of their contribution to the company. So you really don't put that as a top priority pagdating sa executive compensation kasi expected na yun. They will be doing excellent job. CEO siya eh. Paano niya narating yan? May ginawa siya before na uh, para marating niya yung position na yan. But with rank and file employees, mga bagong hire, you really don't know saan sila galing. Actually, there's a way para malaman. But yung nila, yung working ethics nila, yung work ethics nila, you don't know. Di ba? Hindi mo alam na para silang new grads, para sila ng course na na-take, para sila ng qualification. Pero yung working relationship with them, magkaiba, possible na magkaiba. So, syempre, dahil mag-iiba yan, you make use yung compensation. O, kung itong isa ay tatamad-tamad, yung isa ay masipag, syempre, you reward yung tao na masipag by providing him bonus, performance incentive, or even salary increase. Number 3, provide salary increase whenever appropriate within available funding. So that's self-explanatory. Kung entitled naman yung kung tawag dito, kung deserving naman yung empleyado na salary increase mo siya. Deserve naman yun. Deserve naman yun. Pero dapat nga, again, it's always within available funding. Increase mo, di mo pala kayang bayaran. Pa-increase ka pa. Sabihin mo, ay wala tayong pera ngayon. Ay walang kwenta yung increase mo na yan. Hindi naman pala mag-materialize. And you motivate employees by demonstrating the link between performance and pay. The best way to show the link between the performance and pay is to actually do it. You actually do it. For example, you have 5, ito magkakabatch, 5 sila. Para maparating mo sa kanila na direct ang relationship ng performance at ng pay. I-reward mo yung mga masisipag. Kasi yung mga magkakabatch sa company, yan yung mga magiging magkakabarkada eh. I've been through it. Matagal na akong nasa workforce. Ano kaya ako nagtatrabaho? Almost more than a decade na ako nagtatrabaho. And isa sa mga napapansin ko na sa social aspect ng pagtatrabaho ay kung sino yung magkakabatch, yung mga pumasok kunyari, yung mga hires ng 2008, sila yung magiging magkakabarkada. Yan. At sila yung palagi mag-uusap. It does not mean na wala silang ibang kakausapin. Pero ang expectation kapag ganyan, sila yung magiging close friends, kumbaga. Kasi sila yung magkakabatch eh. Pero kung sila yung magkakabatch at yung isa ay nakita mo na tisipag talaga at gusto mo siyang ma-motivate pa further, taasan mo yung sweldo niya. At dahil close friends sila at sila yung magkakabatch, mapapaisip yung 4, bakit itong si Y? Ganda na yung position niya. Then eventually, nagiging amo na si Y. Ay, boss na natin si Y ngayon. Supervisor na natin siya. So there must be something na ginagawa si Y na hindi natin ginagawa, tayong 4. There must be something. Ba't siya na-promote tayo, hindi? Ba't ngayon amo na natin siya? Sinusunod na natin yung mga inuutos niya. Sabay-sabay tayong pumasok ngayon. That is how you demonstrate the link between performance and pay. Paramdam mo sa kanila na kung anong i-contribute mo sa company, ma-receive mo yung corresponding pay for that. Okay? So, salary ranges involve a number of factors, regional prevailing salary rate. Siyempre, batas pa rin. Kailangan pa natin sumunod sa batas. Usually, yung executive compensation kasi hindi mo na masyadong iisipin to. Diba? Hindi naman siguro minimum wage ang i-offer mo sa mga CEO, CFO. But for newly hires, pwede, no? Pwedeng ang ibayad mo sa kanila ay minimum wage. And you have to take that into account. Hindi pwedeng babayaran mo sila lower than the minimum wage. That would be a violation of the labor code. No? Also, you have contractual stipulations to follow. So, if nag-agree kayo for a certain pay in a contract, which should be again, at least ma-meet mo yung minimum. Pero ba't ka naman magkakontrata kung hindi man pala, kung minimum lang naman pala, huwag na magkontrata, minimum lang naman pala. Kasi by default, ibabayad sa yung minimum. Kahit walang kontrata yan. Pero kung makipagkontrata ka din, syempre ideally, mas mataas doon sa pinaprovide or nire-require ng labor code. And then, negotiated bargaining agreement. So, again, nag-a-apply ito kung ang company ay mga empleyado ay merong union. So, kung meron kayong union, magkakaroon kayo ng collective bargaining agreement. So, kailangan sundin kung ano yung napagkasunduan ninyo doon sa collective bargaining agreement with the employees. Okay? So, ito yung mga mandatory benefits. These are non-negotiable kasi ito yung sinasabi ng batas na kailangan mong bayaran. First, for non-executive, first, statutory minimum wage. So, meron tayong tinatawag na minimum wage which is regional. Sa bawat region, may kanya-kanya minimum wage. So, iba yung minimum wage sa NCR, sa Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, etc. ng Region 12, ilang mga region natin. So, kanya regional yung minimum wage. Siyempre, pinakamataas sa NCR. Kaya naman, no, kaya nasisiksikan yung mga tao dito kasi dito pinakamataas na minimum wage. Thinking that, yun nga, para makuha na yung pinakamataas na minimum wage sa Pilipinas, let's travel to the National Capital Region at doon tayo maghanap ng trabaho. Overtime pay. So, any work performed beyond 8 hours. So, sabi ng labor code, ang number of hours natin per day should be 8 hours. So, if you will perform work beyond the 8 hours na sinasabi ng labor code, dapat merong premium, no? Overtime pay tawag doon. Minimum 25%, sabi ng labor code, on regular days, 30% on special days, holidays, or your rest day. So, that's the minimum the employer, the management can provide for a higher. Pero hindi ka pwedeng mas mababa sa minimum na eh. So, kung 25% yung minimum na overtime pay for regular days, you can offer 30 or 50%, ang taas nun. Pero you cannot offer 10% kasi that is lower than what is required by the labor code. Rest day premium, so meron tayong rest day. If you will be required to work on your rest day, you are entitled to receive at least 30%, additional 30% of your daily salary. Night shift differential premium. So if you will be required to work between the hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or mas kilala natin sa tawag na graveyard, meron kang minimum of 10% night shift differential. 10%. Minimum yun. Again, the company may go higher, pero pwede mas mababa. Ay, hindi pwedeng mas mababa. 13th-month pay for all employees regardless of their position. Service incentive leave, 5 days minimum. For those employees who have rendered at least 1 year sa company. Holiday pay and holiday premium. So meron tayong, depende kung anong klaseng holiday. Meron tayong regular holiday and special holiday. Kung regular holiday yan, 25%. Regular holiday pala ay double pay. So 100% of your salary kung papasok na sa double pay. Kung hindi ka papasok, 100%. Kung makukuha mo pa rin yung sweldo mo. If special working holiday yan, no work, no pay will apply. Pero kung papasok ka, you will be entitled to receive additional 30% of your salary. Ayun yung holiday premium for special days. And then we have leave benefits required by law din ito. Maternity leave, syempre para sa mga nanay na syempre mga anak sila, they have to take care of their children. of their child, yung newly born child, breastfeed nila, alagaan nila. Yan. 105 days ata yan na yan. Paternity leave, syempre on the side of the father, 7 days. Solo parent leave, if you're a solo parent, especially for female employees. So for Magna Carta for women, meron siyang, if meron siyang, tawag dito, operahan sa kanyang reproductive system, yan, pwede siya mag-leave for that. And especially for victims of violence against women and their children. So kung victim ka ng bawsi, syempre attend ka ng hearing or what do you call this? Papacheck up mo yung sarili mo. Kung merong physical abuse, for example, merong pwede kang mag-avail ng special leave for victims of bawsi. So yun yung mga leave natin. And then meron pa tayo ditong service incentive leave. Yan. Kung maka 1 year ka sa company, they will provide minimum 5 days. Pero under industry practice, instead of SIL, Service Incentive Leave, ang pinaprovide ng company ay vacation leave at saka sick leave. Yan na lang yung tawag. Usually, mas marami naman sa 5 days yan. So, okay na sa labor code natin. Basta hindi siya bababa sa 5 araw. Para dito, pinangalanan siya, vacation leave. Obviously, kung para saan ang vacation leave, para makapagbakasyon, sick leave para sa mga araw na ikaw ay magkakasakit. So pag come up ng yung compensation plan, you also have to consider yung mga government mandated contribution. So whether ito ay executive or non-executive, non-negotiable tong mga to. Kailangan talaga sila ay i-register mo sa mga government corporations na ito at kailangan mo mag-withhold ng contribution para i-remit sa kanila. So you have SSS. No? The SS was created to provide private employees and their families protection against disability, sickness, old age, and death. Yan. So pag nag-member ka ng SS, you will be able to avail disability benefit, sickness benefit, retirement, pension pay. The GSIS, Government Service Insurance System, is the counterpart for government employees. So for private employees, SS tayo. Pag government employees, GSIS. HDMF, Home Development Mutual Fund, or mas kilala sa tawag na pag-ibig. It is a provident saving system supplying housing loans to private and government employees. So HDMF, pag-ibig yan. Pag-ibig, HDMF. Required lahat pag-miyembro. And Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or mas kilala sa tawag na PhilHealth. Medyo malungkot ka, narinig mo yung PhilHealth. Nasaan na ba? Accounted na ba ang nawawala? Anyway, PhilHealth is administered by the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation and provides employees with practical means of paying for adequate medical care in the Philippines. So kapag ikaw ay na-hospital at ikaw ay member ng PhilHealth, yan, mababawasan ng iyong hospital bills. May portion dyan i-shoulder ng PhilHealth. So kapag ganito, yung mga salary deductions natin, ano siya, dalawang parte yan. Employee at saka employer. May employee share, may employer share. Yung employee share, yan yung lumalabas as salary deduction. So yung SS for it, lahat naman yan bracketed except for pag-ibig. Fix siya at 100. Pero yung SS tsaka yung PhilHealth, based on your salary bracket. Mas mataas yung salary bracket mo, mas mataas yung contribution. Mababa lang yung salary bracket, mababa lang din yung contribution. So, yun yung employee. Tapos meron siyang counterpart na employer. Siyempre, employer share, manggagaling kay employer ito. Parang tatapatan niya. Ang madali, yung sa PhilHealth at saka sa pag-ibig. Kasi kung anong PhilHealth contribution ng employee, yun din yung employer share. So, for example, based on the table, fall siya, for example, sa contribution na 400 pesos. Yun yung employee share na ikakalta sa salary. Yung employer, mula sa sarili niyang pera, magbibigay din siya ng 400 para tapatan yung employee share. Pag-ibig ganun din. Pero pag-ibig kasi is not progressive, 100-100 lang siya. Although I know merong paraan para mapataas yan, yung contribution mo sa pag-ibig. Pero yun nga, in regular, yung default system ng pag-ibig ay 100 kay employee, 100 kay employer. Okay? Yung SS hindi. No? Mas mataas yung employer share. Sa employee, for example lang, I'm not really sure. Ang contribution ng employee ay, let's say, 700. Sa employer, around 1.5 yung i-contribute niya or 1.3. Mga ganon. Hindi sila pantay. Mas mataas yung employer share. Okay? So how do we manage labor costs? Papunta na tayo sa, we are done, essentially done with the non-economic or non-tax aspect. Now we go to the economic aspect. So how do we advise? How do we make advice? Siyempre, ang labor, gastos yan ng company. Gastusin ng company yan. Every time na meron siyang empleyado, bayad ng bayad. May benefits, babayaran. May company outing, babayaran. Merong pagpapasundo gamit ang shuttle service, may babayaran. So how do you manage labor cost? Yan. So meron tayong 4 na paraan dito. First, no, you have managerial, supervisory versus rank and file employees. No? Mamimili ka kung ano ba yung i-hire mo. Managerial ba o rank and file? Or pangalawa, you can establish non-employee relations. Makakapag-render ng service pero hindi siya empleyado. Possible yan. Number 3, you can also outsource. Allowed naman yan under the labor code, outsourcing or tinatawag na job contracting. And number 4, compensation package. So maaari mong idaan sa package, no? I-package deal, kumbaga, yung compensation. Kung package deal yan, no, medyo meron kang room for negotiation. Dagdag ko to, pero hindi mo ma-receive yung ganito. O anong gusto mo? Ma-receive mo ng ganito pero walang ganyan. Ayan, bahala ka. It's part of your negotiating skills kung paano mo papa-oo yung kausap ng empleyado. Okay? Oh. Nag-iba yung salita. Job contracting, outsourcing or job contracting. Yan. First method ay you choose between managerial, supervisory, tsaka rank and file employees. Sa level kasi yan, di ba? Managerial, supervisory, mga nasa taas na yan. Rank and file yan yung mga bagong hire usually. Mga rank and file employees. Yung non-tax consideration mo dito, syempre qualifications. Hindi mo naman matatawaran yung qualification. Pero iisipin mo, kaya bang gawin ng 2 o 3 rank and file employee yung trabaho ng supervisor? Baka naman kaya. O kaya naman, the other way around. Baka naman mas nakakatipid ako kung ito na lang na supervisory employee ang i-hire ko kaysa i-maintain ko pa itong 3 rank and file employee. Baka napapamahal na ako. Kakabayad ko sa 3 empleyado na to. Kaya namang gawin ng isang supervisor. O yun yung non-tax aspect or non-economic aspect. It's qualification-based. Ano ba yung pangangailangan ng company? At paano ma-meet yung pangangailangan na yan? Yan. Baka naman, hire ng rank and file. Kaya naman palang gawin ng isang supervisor yun. Baka lang. Then we are not making conclusions here. Pero those are just some of the factors that the management can consider. Okay? Now, what about tax consideration? Tax consideration. Ano ba, kung babasahin natin yung NARC, ano ba yung humihiwalay sa mga managerial, supervisory, tsaka rank and file employees? Sabi ng NARC natin, yung usapan about fringe benefits. So the company may provide fringe benefit sa mga rank and file employees, pwede rin sa mga managerial employees. Pero ba't nag-iiba? Ba't nag-iiba ng treatment? Kapag ang fringe benefit, sabi ng tax code natin, kapag ang fringe benefit ay pre-provide mo, binayad mo sa isang managerial or supervisory employee, then the fringe benefit will be subjected to fringe benefits tax. FBT, final income tax yan. Hopefully, naaalala nyo sa income tax ninyo. Kung ang fringe benefits ay ibibigay mo o ibabayad mo sa isang rank and file employee, this one will be subjected to basic income tax. Progressive rate. Saan ngayon? Una distinction yan. Magkaiba ng tax treatment. Fringe benefits to managerial, fringe benefits tax. Fringe benefits to rank and file, basic income tax. But on the part of the employer, ano yung beneficial sa akin dyan? Kung ako yung employer, saan ako merong benefit? Mas matipid to. Mas matipid yan. Bakit? Kasi kapag fringe benefits tax, on top of the fringe benefit, meron ka pang additional na kailangang bayaran by way of fringe benefits tax. So sa point of view ng cost, mas costly yung fringe benefits tax. Kasi additional to, add-on ito. Unlike kapag basic income tax, nagiging liability na yun ng empleyado. Bahala na siya mag-determine kasi computation niya. Sariling compute niya yun. Sariling tax liability niya yun. But for fringe benefits tax, withhold yan ng employer at yun nga, expense ni employer ito. So kung cost ang pag-uusapan natin, mas costly ito. So dito ka. So X ka dito. Kasi mas mahal ito eh. Ito, least costly. Pero kung tax benefit ang pag-uusapan, dito tayo. Hindi dito. Kung ang point of view mo lang ay yung tax benefit, dito may tax benefit ka. Bakit? Kasi you can claim fringe benefits tax as an expense. Kapag na-claim mo siya as expense, mapapababa mo yung taxable net income, di ba? Bababa yung tax due. O may tax benefit ka. Dito, wala kang tax benefit. Kasi yung basic income tax liability ng rank and file employee, hindi mo naman pwedeng i-take yun as your own expense. So, wala kang tax benefit on that. So, yun lang naman yung pag-aaralan mo. Saan ka mas benefit? I-treat ko ba siya as cost, pero meron akong tax benefit, or hindi siya cost, pero wala naman akong tax benefit. What else can you consider? Yung managerial at supervisory, you can expect that meron silang high salary. Ba't ka naman tatanggap ng posisyon na managerial or supervisory without a corresponding adjustment sa sweldo mo? Diba? Tatanggap ka ba ng additional responsibility nang hindi ina-adjust yung sweldo mo? Siyempre, you would negotiate. O kung ipapromote niyo ako supervisor or managerial employee, dapat meron akong increase in my salary. Itong rank and file, siyempre, basic salary. Usually, yung entry level, mas mababa compared dun sa managerial or supervisory. Ano ngayon? Diba? Napag-usapan natin kanina dito, yan. Government-mandated contributions ay nakadepende sa bracket. Dahil nakadepende sa bracket yan, itong mga managerial and supervisory employee na may mataas na salary ay may mas mataas na employee share at may mas mataas na employer share. Kung rank and file, mababa yung employee share, mababa din yung employer share. O ano ngayon? Tandaan nyo itong employer share na yan ay expense ng company. At dahil expense ng company, may effect yan sa taxable net income. So in effect, kung mag-hire ka ng managerial employee, magkakaroon ka ng mas mataas na employer share. So kung cost ang titignan mo, not beneficial for you. Kung cost ang titignan mo. Pero kung ang titigan mo ay tax benefit, then it's beneficial. Kasi kapag tumataas yung employer share mo, tumataas yung expenses mo. Kung tumataas ang expenses mo, bumababa ang taxable net income. Bumababa ang tax due. So kung point of view mo ay tax point of view, then okay to. Pero kung point of view mo ay budgetarian ka, eh hindi okay yan. Tumataas yung employer share. Ayaw mo nun. Yan. Kanya-kanyang point of view lang. Ang point of view natin dito ay tax manager. Example. So si Mr. X ay managerial, ang sweldo niya ay 480. Si Mr. A, Mr. B, at Mr. C ay lahat rank and file. Ang sweldo ng tatlo ay 160. Pag tinotal mo yan, makukuha mo yung sweldo ni Mr. X. So ang tanong mo yan, anong mas maganda? Tatlong rank and file na ang sweldo 160 each or isa lang? Mr. X managerial 480 lahat sa kanya. Again, we have non-tax consideration, qualifications of these employees, employee morale, yan. Kung ano ng mga i-consider. Okay. Pero for our purpose, ano ba meron? Siyempre dito magkakaiba yan. Kasi graduated yung contribution. So, based yan doon sa ating table. Tapos, meron din fringe benefit. 195 ang pre-provide kay managerial. Pag hinati mo sa tatlo, 65 sila. 65. Tatlong 65, 195. Okay. So, ano mas maganda? Hiwa-hiwalay ko bang tatlo o isa na lang kay managerial employee? Tandaan nyo, kung siya ay bibigyan mo ng fringe benefit, meron siyang fringe benefits tax. How do you compute for that? Sana naalala niyo sa tax 1. Divided by 0.65, 65%, and then multiply it by 35%. You can try it, no? 195,000 divided by 65% multiplied by 35%. You have fringe benefits tax amounting to 105,000, which is not existing kay A, B, and C. Bakit? Eh, kasi hindi sila rank and file. They are not subject to fringe benefits tax. They are subject to basic income tax, so nasettle yon in their individual capacity, not involving the employer. Okay. Now, kung isusuma total mo to, 814286. Isusuma total mo yung tatlo, 727,470. So kung diyan ka magko-concentrate, you can have the conclusion na mas makakatipid ka kung tatlong rank and file ang i-hire mo compared sa isang managerial. Kung ito lang yung tanong syempre ibang tanong nga yung qualification. Kung ang tanong lang ay sweldo, mas makakatipid ka sa tatlong rank and file compared sa isang managerial. Ang total na gastos mo, 727, 470. Eh, ito isa lang siya. Pero 8142, 260. Ano to? Yung lamang, o yung tipid brother, yung tipid yan. 86,790 ang matitipid. Sa cost. Pero kung tax benefit ang pag-uusapan, syempre more beneficial yung managerial employee kasi mas mataas yung expense mo doon. At dahil mas mataas yung expense mo doon, mas liliit yung tax mo kung dito ka pupunta. Okay? Yung tax benefit na yan, hopefully by this time naintindihan na natin yung concept behind it. Now, you can also use as a labor saving device yung non-employee yung establishment ng non-employee relationship. Hindi na sila empleyado. Ano na sila? Professional na siya. So for example, you need an accountant. Instead of hiring an accountant, why not engage a public accountant? Kailangan mo ng lawyer. Instead na mag-hire ka ng lawyer, why not engage mo na lang isang lawyer in the practice of his profession? Ano siya? May firm siya. May law office siya. So professional client relationship, not employer-employee. Professional client relationship. self-employed contractor. So contract is ano siya, consultant siya for example. Instead of hiring hiring a consultant na magiging empleyado ng company, hanap pa nila ng contractista. Ino-offer niya yung service na bilang isang consultant. Contractor siya. Or agency or commission-based arrangement. So, meron kang gusto na ipabenta, idaan mo through an agent. Sales agent siya. Tapos pwede mo siyang bayaran through commission. Yan. Kapag ganyan, ba't mo naman gustuhin na hindi empleyado yung mga tao? For many reasons. Una, you are no longer required to observe yung requirement ng labor code because the labor code will not apply. Hindi mo naman empleyado itong mga to eh. Hindi mo empleyado yung lawyer mo. Hindi mo empleyado yung accountant mo. Professionals yung mga yan. Paano mo sila magiging empleyado? So dahil hindi mo sila empleyado, yung usapan about holiday pay, overtime pay, wala na doon. Hindi mo na control kung ilang oras ba magtatrabaho yung lawyer mo para i-type yung affidavit na hinihingi mo. Diba? Hindi mo siya kailangang bayaran ng holiday pay or overtime pay. Kung natutuwa ka sa service na, taasan mo, okay lang. Professional fee yung binabayad mo, hindi sweldo. So yun yung purpose kung bakit mo i-consider na mag-establish ng non-employee relations. Kasi you will no longer be required to pay yung mga government-mandated benefits. Ito pala. Pangalawa, terms are contractual in nature. So, yung relationship mo with your lawyer or with the agent or with the consultant ay man contractual in nature. Based on contract yan. At dahil based on contract yan, there is more leeway to terminate it. Unlike employer-employer relationship, you can't just terminate an employee. May proseso na pagdadaanan under the labor code before you can terminate an employee. Pero pag yan ay kontrata, di ba? You can put a stipulation there on how to terminate that contract. And mas madali kapag contractual in nature compared kapag empleyado mo nako, kahirap mag-terminate, maraming pagdadaanan. You have to comply with the strict requirements of the law. And then, yung number 2 naman is not really an advantage kasi whether employee mo sila o hindi, payments to them can be claimed as allowed deductions. Kapag merong employment relation or walang employment relation, dahil nagbayad ka naman talaga for the services rendered, you can claim that as deduction. At kapag claiming mo yan as deduction, it will reduce taxable net income and eventually, it will reduce your tax liability. Okay? Now, paano ko po malalaman kung empleyado o hindi ang isang tao? Meron tayong 4 na test. Fourfold test ang tawag dito. Kapag present yung 4 na yan, ang relationship niya ay employer-employee. So you have the power, the employer has the power to select and hire. Pwede siyang mamili, kumbaga. Hindi siya lang tanggap ng tanggap. Pwede niyang pa-examine, interview, yan, hingi niyan TOR. Yan. You have the power to do that. Kasi pipili ka ng tao magtatrabaho para sa'yo. Siyempre, hindi yan basta-basta. And then you have the power to pay wages and determine that wages. Diba? Nagbabayad ka, nag-service siya, nag-render siya ng service, you have to pay for that service. But by how much? You have the power to determine that. Tuwing kailan? Every week ba? Every day ba? Semi-monthly ba? Ikaw mag-determine nan bilang employer. Yan, power to dismiss. Nagataran pa doon yung empleyado mo, tatanggalin mo siya. Again, you have to comply with the requirements of the labor code on how to effect a dismissal, legal dismissal, para hindi niya ma-feel na illegal yung termination niya at magpo-file pa siya ng kaso against you. Power to dismiss and power to control. Ito yung pinaka-importante sa lahat. Power to control. You should be able, as an employer, should be able to control how the employee performs his work. Hindi may sarili siyang buhay doon na may pinapagawa kang report, iba yung itsura ng report niya. Hindi ganyan yung report natin sa company. Meron tayong paraan kung paano ginagawa yung mga bagay-bagay dito. Yan. So since you can control that individual, it presupposes na empleyado na siya. Pag present yung apat na yan, nag-exist ang employer-employee relationship. So it follows that you have to comply with the requirements of the labor code. If yung apat na to ay hindi present, walang employer-employee relationship, then there's nothing to comply. Siyempre, iba yung kailangan mo i-comply, contractual agreement or contractual stipulations, then ko-complain yun. Pero you don't have to comply with what is provided by the labor code because the labor code applies only if there is an employer-employee relationship between two individuals. Okay? Now we have this issue of job contracting. So dito, sa job contracting, or minsan tinatawag siyang outsourcing. Under the labor code, the state may restrict or prohibit the contracting out of labor to protect the rights of workers. Now, job contracting is not absolutely prohibited. The DOLE sets out parameters for permissible contracting arrangement. So the concurrence of the following is essential for a contractor to be considered as legitimate job contractor. So may mga requirements para maging valid ang isang contracting arrangement. First, the contractor or the subcontractor, ito yung magpo-provide ng serbisyo, is engaged in a distinct and independent business and undertakes to perform the job or work on its own responsibility according to its own manner and method. So for example, IT company kayo, isang IT company. And then, meron syempre kailangan niya ng utility and maintenance. Utility and maintenance. Yung aspect na yan ng kumpanya ninyo, pwede mo siyang i-contract out. Kasi may mga kumpanya na nag-offer ng utility services, janitorial services. So, pwede mo siyang i-kontrata. Yan. O kaya naman, security ng company. Diba? Alam mo, mag-train ka pa ng mga security guard na ang daming pagdadaanan. Meron namang nag-offer ng security services. Iko-kontrata mo sila. Kasi yung job contracting, may mga aspeto ng iyong operations na iko-contract out mo, i-outsource mo, tagalabas yung gagawa, kumbaga. Pero requirement na yan, dapat itong contractor mo, yung security agency or yung janitorial services is engaged in a distinct and independent business. Dapat hiwalay siya sa'yo. Hindi yung kunya-kunyarian lang na nakahiwalay siya pero same company lang din. Hindi. Dapat legitimate na nag-offer siya ng janitorial services. Hindi lang sa'yo, but to other entities din. And undertakes to perform a job or work. So either security yan, or janitorial, ganyan. Or IT itself, pwedeng i-outsource yung IT. Kunyari hindi makapag-put up ng sariling IT system yung isang company, pwede niyang i-outsource yung IT. Yan. Pangalawang requirement, the contractor or subcontractor has substantial capital to carry out the job farmed out by the principal on his account, manner and method, investment in the form of tools, equipment, machinery, and supervision. Actually, before pa sila makapag-apply ng license from the DOLE, they already have to prove this one. Diba? Sa application nila, they have to submit yung financial statements nila to prove na meron silang substantial capital. To prove that they have investment in the form of tools, equipment, machinery, and supervision. In performing the work farmed out, the contractor or subcontractor is free from the control and or the direction of the principal in all time, in all matters connected with the performance of the work, except after the result thereof. Diba? Nabanggit natin kanina, sa employer-employee relationship, yung control yung pinaka-importante. So dito, kung meron kang kinontract out, in-outsource na serbisyo, let's say, security services, wala kang control over that person. Kasi pag nag-exercise ka ng control sa kanya, then nagiging employer ka niya. Nagiging employee mo siya. Kasi di ba, yung right to control, the power to control, is vested doon sa employer with respect to an employee. So if you claim that you are not an employer at siya ay empleyado ng isang agency, then stick to that stick to the principle na wala kang control over that person. The control remains to be with the agency, the security agency, or janitorial services. And then the service agreement ensures compliance with all the rights and benefits for all the employees of the contractor or subcontractor under the labor laws. Dahil nga yung mga empleyado ay nagtrabaho para doon sa contractor, no? Siya yung employer dito, then the service agreement should provide na itong contractor or subcontractor will comply with the requirements of the labor code. So pag na-meet mo yung apat na yan, then there is valid job contracting. Kapag meron element dyan na hindi mo nasunod, then illegal yung job contracting. Pag illegal yung job contracting, ang tawag natin dyan ay labor-only contracting. Labor-only contracting, which is prohibited. Ito. Yan, prohibited yung labor-only contracting. Ang valid ay job contracting. Ito valid to. Yung labor-only contracting, void yan. Bawal yan. Ito, pwede. Ma-meet mo lahat ng requirements, job contracting yan. Okay yan. Pero pag labor-only contracting, bawal. Okay? Now, let us look at the point of view of the individual. Insofar as the individual is concerned, what are taxable compensation income? So from here on, medyo recap na lang ito ng inyong mga natutunan sa income taxation. Taxable compensation income will include salaries, wages, compensation, commission, emoluments, and honoraria. Bonuses and other benefits exceeding 90,000. Kasi we have this rule na kapag hindi lumagpas sa 90,000, exempt. Pero once lumagpas siya ng 90,000, it will be subjected to basic income tax. Progressive, no? 0 to 35%. Number 3, allowances for transportation, representation, entertainment, and other similar items. These are also taxable compensation income. Fees, including director's fee, paid to a director who is also at the same time employee of the payer. Kung siya ay director lamang at hindi siya empleyado, then hindi siya compensation income. Baka consultant fee yun, ganyan, director's fee. It's not compensation. Pero kung yung director na yan is at the same time employee of the company, then yung payment mo sa kanya will be considered as payment of compensation income. Pension, sometimes taxable. Retirement pay, sometimes taxable. Bonuses and profit sharing. Siyempre, hindi naman ito palaging ma-receive ng isang empleyado. Ang bonuses ay manadyan lamang kung kumita yung company. Kaya nga siya bonus eh. It is always based on the profits of the company or profit sharing. Similar nature din naman yan sa bonuses. And other income of a similar nature, including compensation paid in kind. Pwedeng kotse, no? Or pabahay, fringe benefit ang tawag natin. Now, ito importante tandaan ninyo, which are tax-exempt compensation income. Una, statutory minimum wage, including holiday pay, hazard pay, overtime pay, and night shift differential. So kapag ikaw ay kumikita ng minimum wage in that region, magkano ba yung minimum wage ngayon ng NCR? Let me check. 537. Nakita ko sa internet, 537. So yung kikitain mo na yon ay exempt from income tax pursuant to Republic Act 9504. And the exemption will also extend to your holiday pay, hazard pay, overtime, and night shift differential. Yung holiday pay na sabi na natin yan kung ano yan, overtime at saka night shift. Ano yung hazard? Yung hazard pay, ito yung binibigay sa mga empleyado kapag dangerous, no, or life-threatening yung nature ng work nila. For example, nasa minahan ka, or you are handling hazardous chemicals, yan. may dapat may hazard pay kayo. Kung ikaw ay nakatanggap ng hazard pay, tas ikaw ay minimum wage earner, exempt yung minimum wage mo together with your hazard pay. So wala kayong kailangang bayaran dyan. Mabanggit ko lang, no, based on my personal experience. At that time, no, I was already working nung naipasa yung Republic Act 9504. So na nangyari? In-exempt yung mga minimum wage. Kaya in-exempt sila. It so happen na merong mga empleyado na hindi minimum wage earner. At dahil hindi sila minimum wage earner, taxable sila. Kasi ang exempt yung mga minimum wage. Ito, hindi minimum wage earner, so taxable sila. May mga sitwasyon kung saan itong mga minimum wage earner ay mas malaki pa yung kinikita compared doon sa isang empleyado na hindi minimum wage earner. For the reason na yung hindi minimum wage earner ay walang tax, ay merong tax. Ikaw na minimum wage earner, wala kang tax. No? Although mas malaki yung sweldo niya, yung gross, pero dahil may tax siya, ikaw, mas maliit ng konti yung sa'yo. Kasi nga minimum wage earner ka, wala kang tax. So, ano nangyari nun? Nag-ano kami, syempre nag-tax planning kami at that time. Dapat i-increase din namin yung mga minimum wage earner ng such amount na kapag naging taxable sila, they will receive the same pay as if minimum wage earner sila. Ganun yung ginawa namin. In-offer namin sa kanila. Siyempre, in-offeran namin sila ng increase. Di sila basta-basta pumayag. Imagine, tinatanggihan yung increase. May nangyaring ganun. Tinanggihan yung increase, knowing na kapag na-increasean sila, may tax silang mabayaran. So, ang offer namin doon ay i-increasean namin sila, pero yung pag nag-compute kami ng net pay nila, same pa rin yung ma-receive nila as if minimum wage earner sila. So medyo nag-transmit kami ng mga figures. Second, 13th month pay, Christmas bonus, and productivity incentives not exceeding 90,000. So pag hindi lumagpas ng 90,000, exempt. Pero pag lumagpas, taxable, subject to basic income tax. Yung 90,000 na yun, para sa tatlo na yan, ha? 13th month pay, Christmas bonus, and productivity incentives. Hindi tig 90,000 silang tatlo. 90,000 na yung buo. Okay? Mandatory contribution for SS PhilHealth and Pag-ibig. Di ba meron mandatory deduction? Same portion nung sweldo ng employee na kinaltas, representing contribution for SS PhilHealth and Pag-ibig ay exempt from income tax. You also have this de minimis benefits. Ito yung mga benefits of relatively small amount, which is exempt, pero meron siyang limitation kung hanggang saan lang siya exempt. Number 5, based on the train law. Tama ba, train law? Correct, based on the train law. If the net compensation income does not exceed 250,000, kasi di ba meron tayong rule sa train law na kapag in-apply mo yung tax table, yung first line ng tax table ay yun yung binabanggit essentially. Kapag hindi lumagpas ng 250,000, exempt yung iyong income. Actually, kahit hindi ito compensation income, kahit ano pa yung rental income, business income, in-apply lang natin dito since we are talking about employee compensation. If the net compensation income will not exceed 250,000, it will be exempt pursuant to the train law. Retirement pay is also exempt if meet mo itong mga requirements na to. The retiree is at least 50 years old, nakapag-render siya ng 10 years of service. It is the first retirement at approved ng BIR yung private retirement benefit plan. So pag nabit niyang yung apat na elements na yan, requirements na yan, then the retirement pay will be exempt from income tax. Isa dyan ang hindi ma-meet, taxable, subject to basic income tax. Separation pay will also be exempt from income tax if the reason for the separation is either death, namatay siya, disability, may nangyaring mental or physical defect, hindi niya na magawa yung trabaho niya, or sickness, hindi siya gagaling, nakamamatay o nakakahawa yung kanyang sakit, or walang cure yung kanyang sakit, then that is a ground for separation. Or for any cost beyond the control of the employee, basta hindi kontrolado ng empleyado yung cost ng kanyang separation, then yung separation pay niya ay not subject to income tax. Then kapag ikaw ay nag-claim ng benefits from SSG, SIS, or PhilHealth, na nag-claim ka ng, let's say, maternity benefit, or nag-claim ka ng, ano ba, nag-claim ka ng sickness benefit, nag-claim ka ng educational assistance na meron, yan. Or na-hospital ka, yan. May benefit from the PhilHealth. Exempt yung mga, na yan, benefits na yan. Now, we have here the minimis benefits. Sabi natin exempt to, but there are certain limitations to the exemption. So, rice allowance, first item, kain. Favorite natin lahat, no? Rice. Either ibigay mo siya in cash or 50 kilos sack of rice. As long as you will not exceed the threshold amount of 2,000 per month. Food allowance for those employees rendering overtime or night shift work. So hindi siya kahit basta-basta lang na food allowance. Dapat magre-render ka ng overtime or night shift work. The limit is 25% of the minimum wage, which is again 537. Clothing or uniform allowance may be given in actual uniform or in cash. Limit 6,000 per year. Laundry allowance 300 per month. Actual medical benefits for the employee 10,000 per year. Medical cash allowance for the dependents 250 per month or 1,500 per semester or half year. Monetize unused leave credits. Yung leave credits hindi ginamit, so binayad na lang. Walang limit kapag nasa government. Monetize unused vacation leave credits. Vacation ha, hindi sick leave, dapat vacation. Vacation leave credits kapag ikaw ay employed sa private, 10 days ang yung equivalent ng 10 days ang exempt. Gifts given during Christmas or major anniversary, yung founding anniversary ng company, it may be given in cash as long as it will not exceed 5,000 per year, exempt yan. Gifts given as employee achievement awards for their loyalty, length of service or safety achievement, no, walang aksidenteng nagaganap. Then 10,000 yan in the form of tangible personal property. Hindi pwede ang cash, hindi pwede ang gift check. And then finally, benefits received under a collective bargaining agreement, 10,000 per year. So as long as you remain within the limits set forth here, then these are exempt from tax. Pension contribution. So si employer nagpo-provide ng magko-contribute siya dun sa pension fund ng empleyado niya. So an employer establishing or maintaining a pension trust to provide for the payment of reasonable pension for his employees, sa point of view to ng employer, shall be allowed as deduction. So maaari mo itong gamitin as tax-saving device kasi yung pension contribution mo can be claimed as allowed deductions. At kung yan ay allowed deduction, it will reduce your taxable net income, resulting in a lower tax liability. But how do we compute for the allowed deduction? So it must be a reasonable amount transferred or paid into such trust fund during the taxable year in excess of such contribution. But only if such amount has not theretofore been allowed as deduction or is apportioned in equal parts over a period of 10 consecutive years. In summary, medyo mahaba yung provision ng tax code natin eh. If you refer to present service cost, it must be deductible in full. If past service cost yan, amortized over a period of 10 years. Okay. As example, kunyari present, nag-contribute siya ng 5 million. For past service cost, nag-contribute siya ng, let's see, 3 million. So ang mangyayari, magkano yung allowed deductions? Ang allowed deductions niya will be 100% of this one kasi present siya, service cost. And this one should be divided over 10. So ang answer natin will be 5 million 300,000. 5 million ito, tas over 10 ito. Kaya 5,300,000. For example, in year number 2, yung subsequent year, there is no present service cost paid. There is no past service cost paid. Question, magkano ang kanyang deduction for pension contribution? The answer is, kahit wala siyang binayaran, meron siyang makiklaim na 300,000. Bakit meron 300,000? Kasi meron kang past service cost dito, which you are amortizing over a period of 10 years. So, ibig sabihin, merong portion yan, i-recognize mo dito, may portion dyan, i-recognize mo dito, and for the other future years, basta makompleto, after mo makompleto yung, until makompleto mo rather yung 10 years. So, ganun lang siya nangyayari. Ganun lang yung recording natin or recognition natin for pension contribution. If the pension contribution pertains to present service cost, you just deduct it in full, 100%. Hindi mo siya as allowed deduction. Pero if the payment pertains to past service cost, then you have to amortize it over a period of 10 years. And then we have this another topic for employee compensation, stock options. Diba sabi natin, ako personally, ito iniisip ko for the best compensation that you can give your employees. Kasi they will really feel that you are valuing their contribution to the point that you are allowing them to own a portion of the company. Diba? Stock options yan eh. If they will exercise the stock options, diba, they will become part owner of the company. And they will be interested in making additional contributions for the growth of the company. Diba? Magbe-benefit sila dyan eh. Total stockholder na sila. Okay. But for tax purposes, what are our concerns? First, you look at the time of the grant. Binigay pa lang. Kasi dalawa yun, diba? Grant exercise, tatlo pala. Grant exercise, tsaka binenta niya. Yung grant mo, ibinigay mo pa lang eh. Stock option pa lang siya. So, kapag binigay ng employer doon sa employee, pero si employee may binayaran, it is given for a price, then the employer is subject to 15% capital gains tax. Kasi as if bentahan siya. Diba? Bentahan siya. So you compute 15% capital gains tax if the employer will provide stock options to the employee and the employee is required to pay for it. If no payment was received, then the transaction is exempt from tax. Wala siyang tax na kasi libre nilang binigay. Employer is liable for DST, documentary stamp tax. Whether may presyo o walang presyo, the employer is liable for documentary stamp tax. And then, there's no taxable income on the part of the employee yet. Actually, yet dapat yan. Wala pa. Pinovidean mo pa lang siya ng stock options eh. So there's no taxable income yet on the part of the employee. So at the time of the grant, ang point of view mo lang palagi kung saan merong tax consequence ay kay employer. What if the employee sold that stock options? Di ba binigyan mo siya? Grinant mo siya ng stock options, binenta niya yung stock options. The employer first is unaffected. Bakit? Siyempre, kay employee na yan. So, anong gusto niyang gawin? Bahala siya. So, insofar as the employer is concerned, unaffected yung employer. So, walang effect sa kanya. Pati sa tax, walang effect sa kanya yan. Now, you look at the employee. Ito yung effect kay employee. If the stock options were transferred for a consideration, then it results into a sale transaction. Therefore, the employee is subject to 15% capital gains tax based on the actual gain. Kasi titignan mo na lang siya parang bentahan. Binenta niya yung stock options niya. So dahil binenta niya yung stock options niya under the tax code, it will be subjected to capital gains tax, 15% of the capital gains. If transfer niya without consideration, then it will be considered as a donation. Binigay mo without consideration. So donation yan. So the employee is subjected to 6% donor's tax Pero meron siyang exempt portion, no? 250,000. We learned that in our tax 2. Sa donors taxation, we learned na, for example, ang value ng shares na ibibigay niya ay 300,000. Then, yung stock options rather, 300,000. Yung first 250 ng donation ay exempt. Yung taxable na lang ay 50,000. 6% of 50,000 will be 3,000, I think. 3,000. So yun yung magiging donor's tax liability if the stock options will be transferred without consideration. What if i-exercise na yung option? Exercise na yung option. So, we have a computation here para malaman natin yung taxable benefit. You start by determining the book value or the fair market value of the shares, whichever is higher. In-exercise na yung option eh. So, may-issuehan siya ngayon ng shares. So, may book value yung shares or fair market value, whichever is higher. Then you have to deduct from the book value or the fair market value the exercise price. Exercise price. Then kapag may lumagpas, yun yung taxable benefit on the part of the employee. Dahil yan ay taxable benefit, it will be subjected to tax. Taxable benefit nga eh. But the taxable benefit will depend on the classification of the employee. If the employee is managerial or supervisory, the taxable benefit will be subjected to fringe benefits tax. If nabanggit na to kanina, inuulit lang natin. If the employee is a rank and file employee, then the taxable benefit is subjected to basic income tax. On the part of the employer, you recognize it as compensation expense. Good yan. Sa point of view ng taxation, kasi kung meron siyang compensation expense, i-claim niya as allowed deduction, it will reduce the taxable net income and eventually, and ultimately rather, it will reduce the tax liability of the company. Okay, that's it for employee compensation, the non-tax consideration and tax consideration, point of view of the employer and point of view of the employee. No, hopefully marami kayong natutunan and hopefully kapag nagtrabaho na kayo, marami kayong magamit sa aking mga pinagsasabi. No? And again, thank you for listening to my lecture videos. If nakikinig nga ba talaga kayo, thank you. If not, okay lang din, di kayo pipilitin. Walang pilitan dito. No? But hopefully, yan, and it's always my hope na meron tayong natutunan every time na nakikinig kayo ng lecture video. And again, if meron sa inyo na makakatulong kung paano ma-improve yung audio ng previous na lecture video, so please send me a message. And up to date, wala pa rin nagsasend ng message sa ating MS Teams. Yan. So, thank you again for listening or viewing the lecture video, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye.